Hi there and welcome to High Point Music's online video tutorials. My name is Ryan White and what we're going to do today is going to take you guys through the Ed Sheeran tune Icy Fire. So play a little excerpt for the intro just there, but the way we're going to go through this one today is we're actually going to go through it sequentially. So I'll go through it part by part because there's a few little variations on the form just to do with bar numbers between sections, so it's probably going to make the most sense to approach it that way. So this is going to be a cool little song if you are just getting started with getting some hammer-ons going with your playing and you've got some open chords and you want to look at a few different ways in which you can get different uses out of those open chords. Before we get into today's lesson, just want to point out we are using a capo for this one on the 6th fret. If you don't have a capo, I'll pop a link in the description below. You can pick one up from a trusted retailer. But other than that, let's jump straight into it. Okay, so starting off with the introduction, people. So the first part we have is a hammer-on and a pull-off combined together. So that's the section. We're going to break this down for you now. So we start with our first finger on the 2nd fret on the 3rd string from the bottom on the G string. And what we're going to do is our first move is a hammer-on from the 2nd fret to the 4th, just like that. So that movement like that, and then following on from that we want to go and do a pull off straight away, so it's, and just note the rhythm there, so it's like long, short, long, long, short, long. So that's the rhythm we got going on there. So let's look at the next part of that, which is we're adding in that little pull off from our first finger off the 2nd fret. So combining those together, nice and slow. Okay, so just to keep in mind, if you are unfamiliar with the concept of hammer-ons and pull-offs, what you can do with this one is, if you pay attention to my finger and the motion the finger makes, I'll just use the first finger for an example. So you see it's sort of, the movement is a bit of a downward, kind of a diagonal movement away from the fretboard like that, okay? That's how you're going to get that sort of pulling the finger across the string like that and still getting that pull-off effect to get the sound to pop and get a nice clean tone there. Alright, so moving on to the next section, we've got, okay, next bit's a hammer-on there, followed by a pull-off. So that'll be a little bit easier if you're just getting into hammer-ons and slurring, because we're just using our first finger on the 2nd fret there. So combining that all together, and again, nice and steady there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and last one. Okay, so this section in particular, particularly if you're just starting out, just go nice and steady with that one, because what you have to do is just get the fingers used to making those movements first. And once you just go nice and steady, then you can start getting a little bit more rigid on the timing. But just getting the fingers moving first, understanding the action that you need to take with executing the hammer-ons and the pull-offs across the strings. And then once you're doing that, the rest is going to be nice and easy as you implement the rhythm. Alright, so moving on to the next section, we've gone from, and then we're using a little, I guess not a double stop, but a short version of a chord. Okay, a little C major triad, but what we're doing with this one is we're hitting those 3 strings together, but we're implementing a hammer-on as we strum. So I'll do it nice and slow for you to see at home, like that. So that voicing just there is our 2nd finger on the 3rd fret on the A string, and then we're hammering on to the 2nd finger, or 2nd fret I should say, on the D. So well, that's just practice that one as well. So strum, hammer on, strum, hammer-on. And to actually, there's a minimum amount of force which is required with this hammer-on technique to actually get the note on our first finger to sound out nice and clear. So I want you to try and visualize the way a piano works, the hammers on the inside of a piano coming onto the note. And it's sort of that sort of sudden effect, kind of where you're punching onto the note, almost like a hammer hit on the inside of a piano. Because if you go too soft, you're not going to get the contact onto the string to actually get the sound we're looking for. So there's a minimum amount of force that you just got to aim for there. So you can see what the technique looks like there. So just once you get the movement right, just practice implementing a little bit more force as you get closer to the string. All right, so recapping what we've covered there, we've got, okay, and I assure you this is the trickiest part of the intro here, so. And once more. All right, so we've got that. Once you've got that comfortable, we're going to go down using a D sus voicing here, but with our first finger on the second fret on the third string from the bottom, and then our third finger is on the third fret on the B string there. Okay, but what we're going to do with this one is we're going to start with our first finger off the note there on the A there. We're just going to go, so the same idea that we're applying with our hammer on here, we're starting with just our third finger as our pivot, and we're hitting these three strings like this. So 1, 2, 3, and then after we strum those three, we're applying our first finger with that hammer on. Okay, so nice and slow there. So we go 1, 2, 3, just like that. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's what's going on there. Because this is a D sus chord, if we happen to hit the E string down the bottom, that's completely cool. But we want to be aiming the majority of our strumming, if we can, focusing our efforts through those three strings there. So I'm going to go put that in context with the beginning section so we can hear it. Okay, and then and again. And one more. Next bit. Okay. Alright, so what we've done there is we've gone through and we've covered the basics of the movements that we're going to be using with all the hammer-ons and slurs. So there's a few little strumming parts we just got to fill in the gaps with there, but that is the trickiest part of the introduction without a doubt. So once you can actually get through that really comfortable, again, as I mentioned, just take your time, get to learn the process. And once you're really comfortable with that process, then you can start speeding it up as you become more familiar and start internalizing those movements of what we're trying to do. But let's fill in those gaps that we've got to now. So, we're on the C major is where we need to fill in, so we go. So it's just as simple, after we do the hammer-on, we go. So the hammer-on is 1, so 1, 2, 3. And all I'm doing there is I'm just hitting the bass note on 2, and then on 3, strumming through those 3 strings. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And again, if we happen to hit the major 7 with the open B string, it's not a big deal, but we want to be focusing our force, or the majority of our attention with our strumming through those 3 strings there. So putting that in context with this part, 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, and then moving on to finish it off, we go 1, 2, 3, and then into the E minor. 1, 2, 3. So same idea with the E minor. So 1, 2, 3. once more. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so that covers the verse. That's what we need to get done there. So that's a really good, particularly if you're familiar with a lot of these techniques, you won't sort of worry too much about the structure with the strumming there. So I've kept it pretty simple for the people out there who are just sort of just getting up onto the curve of those hammer-ons and the slurring with their open strings. So that way, once you can get that and you're comfortable with that, then you can start feeling more comfortable with the rhythm and actually improvising a little bit around that structure. So for those of you who are more advanced, you'll be able to fill in those gaps and improvise a little bit with your strumming and your rhythms. But for those of you, as I mentioned, who are just starting out, just take that structure, keep it nice and simple, and then once you've internalized that, then you can start adding extra rhythms and strumming patterns in to get a bit fancier. Let's jump straight into the verse. Alright, so the chords we're going to be using in the verse, we've got our E minor, okay, a G major, D major, and then we have a C major as well, just like that. Alright, so starting off with our E minor, for those of you who aren't familiar with our first finger on the 2nd fret on the A string, our 2nd finger goes on the 2nd fret on the D string. So as I just alluded to before with the verse, for the beginners I'm going to keep a pretty simple strumming pattern. So the first one we're just going to go, so it's just 1, 2, 3, and we've got a little bit of a hit on 3. So I'll just show you how that works. It's a little percussive technique where it's 1, 2, and you can use the side of your hand or just your hand facing like that, almost like you're knocking on a door if you're looking inside on. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, just like that. So we do that on the E minor, so 1, 2, 3, straight to the G major. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and up. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and up. And once more, nice and slowly. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and up. And then what we're going to be doing following on from that, people, is we're going to go the exact same pattern with our D major. So first finger on the 2nd fret on the G string, 3rd finger is on the 3rd fret on the B string, and then our 2nd finger is on the 2nd fret on the D. Sorry, on the E string I should say, to make our D major chord. So we go 1, 2, 3, like that. Same idea, and then into our C major. 1, 2, 3, and up. So on that, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and up. And once more, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and up. So just once through to put it all in context, people. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and up. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and up. So just like that, that's how we put it all together. Alright, so what's going on with the form of this verse? So we play that section in the first verse, the first part of it. You actually do that 3 times, that section. So you play through that 3 times, and then we're going to get to this next part, which is starts with the A minor 7, G over B, C major. Let's break down and see how that all works. So with our A minor 7, we have our first finger on the 1st fret on the B string, open G, and then our 2nd finger goes on the 2nd fret on the D string there. And again, we're targeting the bottom 5 strings of this chord. So we're going to be borrowing that strumming pattern that we use from the intro and from the verse, where we go 1, 2, 3 with our little hit there. So 1, 2, 3. And then we go to our G over B. Alright, so first finger on the 2nd fret on the A string, 3rd finger on the 3rd fret on the B string, just like that. And I'm targeting the middle 4 strings with my strum there. the more advanced players out there, I generally play it like that, just because it's less horizontal movement across the fretboard. But if you're just starting out, the first and third is absolutely okay as well. All right, so with the strumming between the A minor 7 and the G over B, we go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and up. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and up. All right, and then what we do after that is we switch it to our C major. So crash course, if you don't know it, first finger on the first fret on the B string, open G, second finger goes on the second fret on the D string, and our third finger goes on the third fret on the A string like that. And what we're going to be doing is the 2 bars of that strumming pattern, we're going to be applying it to this voicing here. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and up. All right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and a. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm just going to put that first verse in context with that little tag, so you can, at home you can hear what it sounds like put together. So 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. First time. Here's the second time. This is the third, and here comes our little tag where we go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. All right, so at that point in the song, it actually drops back into the little intro. So Alright, so because we've already covered that in the introduction, you know how to play that there. Now, quick little look at what happens after that. So let's call that a mid-verse interlude. So it drops back into that exact same verse progression of the E minor to the G major to the D to the C. And what it does at that point, it actually does it 3 times again. And keeping in tradition of the first verse, it actually goes to the A minor, the G over B, to the C major for 2 bars, like that. But then the variation comes. So what happens at that point is we have the A minor, same strumming pattern, the G over B, and then it goes to a D major down like that. So I'm going to play through it nice and steady. This is the second half of the first verse after we've gone through the little interlude. Okay, so we're just getting ready to go into the chorus. So let's check out this little pre-chorus section. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. First time, second time. Okay, so it's important to point out with that section as well that when it gets past the A minor and the G over B, it just drops back into the D major where it's just hitting straight quarter notes going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And on the 5th one, you hit that and let it ring out before we actually jump on into that chorus progression. All right, so speaking of that chorus progression, which is where we're up to in our progression of learning this tune, let's break that bit down. So it starts off, I'll play through the section for you so you can hear it in context. So Alright, so there's no new voicings there that we need to cover, so we'll just jump straight on in. We've got our E minor voicing, so we go 1 all the way through on that E minor, just like that. And then what we're doing is we're going to be sort of stepping on the bass player's toes a little bit here, but that's okay. So we go 1, 2, 3. So what I'm doing in the bass there is the first finger's on the 2nd fret on the E string, followed by the 3rd fret on the E string as well, but the note is the G. And I tied myself up there, but 1, 2, 3. So that's the rhythm we've got. So 1, 2, 3, and again 1, 2, 3, and then we go straight into that C. And And again with this C, targeting the bottom 5 strings there, people. So 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. And last time, 1, 2, 3, 1. And then moving on, there we go, bass on the A string there, so 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. Okay, so just looking at the bass note, there we go, 1. Okay, just on the A string there. And then once we get onto the D sus there, the same principle that we use in the introduction with our first finger hammering on, we go. Okay, so using that hammer on the 2nd fret from the open G string to the A there and the D sus. Like that, and then into the E minor. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can borrow that exact same strumming pattern that we covered over the C major on the first half of that in bar 2 on that. Alright, so let's put that together really slowly in context. So, E minor, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to D sus, 1, 2, 3, 1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, and it just starts again. 2, 3, 4, 5, D sus, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, last time. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like that. Alright, so just go nice and steady to make sure you get those rhythms where you want it. Again, if you, as I mentioned with all the sections before, if you're a bit of a beginner to intermediate, take your time, learn these structures. But if you're a more advanced player, you're going to be able to pick these rhythms up really easy and internalize them very, very quickly and just be a little bit freer with your strumming there. Onto the form now, so we do that 4 times. Okay, so we go 1, 2, 3. Second time. Third time. Alright, now the 4th time we have to keep an eye out here because there's a little variation on how we finish that. So the 4th time, just jumping on in to have a look, we go 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we're just gonna sit on this D sus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. So what there is, it substitutes going back to the E minor early, and it just carries on. So if we think of it as a bar structure, so the first 2 bars, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it goes another 4, and then another 4 as well. So I nearly got tied up with the way Ed Sheeran structures his tunes there with a 3 beat and then a change on beat 4, making it a 5 beat chord in the 2nd bar, which is, there's a video on that actually. I did a video for a viewer on that one, so that should be coming up in the pretty near future on the channel, so keep an eye out for that one, particularly if you're a singer-songwriter wanting to pick up some sort of tips with how to structure your chord changes and your rhythms to get some different sounds, just like Ed Sheeran was using in this song and along with his others. But before I digress, getting back to that, so we just got to keep an eye on that. So we've got that little variation on the 4th time through where we go E, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So that's the first chorus. So after we get through that section in the first chorus, we jump straight back into the verse, which is, as we've already covered that, it's the second verse progression that we looked at with the A minor, the G over B to the C, but extending on from that, going A, G over B, then the D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So following on from that chorus, you just play that half of the first verse after that before going back into the chorus. So the reason why I want to sort of just brush over that, because is one, we've already learnt the information and the chords, so there's no point actually revisiting that, but I want to get straight to the second chorus, because what happens is there's a difference in the rests. So on that D where it goes, and we've got 2 bars in the 4 bars and then an extra 2 bars moving on before the second verse kicks in. But in the second verse, before we actually jump into the bridge section, it goes, there's an extra 2 bars on that. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, and then after those 2, there's another 4, so that's resting 6 altogether. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, before it actually jumps into the bridge. So let's jump on in and have a look at that bridge section. All right, so the first chord we're going to be using for our bridge is our A minor voicing. So our first finger goes on the 1st fret on the B string, our second finger goes on the 2nd fret on the D string, and our third finger goes on the 2nd fret on the G string there. So the bottom 5 strings there. And again, we're going to be taking the same rhythm structure or strumming pattern through this bridge as well. So that way it just keeps it nice and simple. So jumping back in, we go 1, 2, 3, like that, with our little rest, our hit. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and second chord's on that E minor there. And then we go straight to a G major. All right, so you've got the second finger on the G note there, on the 3rd fret on the E string. First finger goes on the 2nd fret on the A string, open D, open G, and then third finger can sit on the 3rd fret on the B. We don't want to be going too far through this voicing. We just want to sort of be focusing our attention on the top 5 at max, or at most I should say. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and a 1, 2, 3, like that. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 to C, 2. Again, with this one, we sort of, because of the melody sort of is falling a little bit in the lower register, we don't want to clutter up the upper register with too many open notes, so we want to be targeting those 3 to 4 middle strings there on the guitar like that, okay? With our strumming, so let's go nice and steady putting that pattern together. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, and a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and a 1, 2, 3. All right, so not unlike the verse, we do that progression 3 times. So once we've done that 3 times, then we jump back into our A minor 7 voicing, which is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the G over B, and then it's 3 beats on the C, 1, 2, 3, and then 5 on the D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So putting that together, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then straight into the and at that point we've covered everything we need to, and you just jam out on that last chorus. So that covers all the parts that we need for Ed Sheeran's I See Fire. So it's a cool little song, particularly because of the use of the hammer-ons with the open voicings. I really like that effect. It sounds even better with the capo up on the 6th fret with this one. And also there's a little bit of single note combination with that. So that's a cool concept for people, particularly once they're getting out of that stage where they're a beginner, just working with open chords. And that can feel really, really good when you're working on stuff like that and playing a bit of single note stuff with some chords and combining all these hammer-ons and pull-offs. So again, if you just go nice and steady with the information we've covered in today's tutorial, you will get it. So just slow and steady, and again, focus on the parts which just one bit at a time. You only have to get a little bit better every day with this one, and then before you know it, just by focusing on what you're struggling with and improving that, you'll be playing through this tune, a piece of cake, no time at all. But persistence pays off, people. Alright, so if you've enjoyed today's tutorial, feel free to throw us a like, a share, a subscribe on social media. We appreciate any shares via social media, people spreading what we're doing. If you've got any questions you'd like to ask me, you can send an email to learn@highpointmusic.com.au, and in those questions, if you want a video tutorial done up, they could potentially be featured in those. But keep in mind, I do have to look at my paid clients first, but just be patient, and I'm happy to look at those because I really want to hear from you all and what you're working on, what you're struggling with, and what you want to improve, most importantly. Also, if you want to support the channel, you can do so by making a donation by the PayPal donate function in the description below. And other than that, just practice hard, keep in touch, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next online tutorial. So until then.